To me, there's just too many little cities in this county.
Well, Ponce Inlet is a very unique place.
Yes, it is.
And, you know, we are on the other side of the county, so it's not like we could be contiguous with Daytona Beach Shores or Port Orange unless somebody annexed Wilbur by the Sea and the county, and I can tell you those people do not want to be annexed.
That's right, you're not contiguous.
We are not. And I don't think the people of Ponce Inlet would be very interested, quite frankly, unless if there were benefits that are not known yet, then, you know, obviously I can't speak to that. But right now, with the situation the way it is, I have seen over the years discussions of either consolidating or dissolving and becoming part of the county, and there was very little support for it. Well, people love their town.
Well, I have the little town atmosphere myself. But for such a little town, it seems like they've got a lot of big issues coming out.
I can't comment on that. I think it's obvious.
Now let's go back to the noise issue with the restaurants. Like you said, you need your businesses.
Yes.
You got 4 restaurants.
That play music. There is another one that doesn't.
Okay. Now, then we go on to code and comprehensive planning.
Right.
And business. And also code enforcement. Your businesses are probably the backbone of your city financially, correct?
Probably for the most part. I mean, we do have high-priced homes there, as you know. So we do bring in a lot of revenue from the homeowners also. But the businesses are a huge impact on our tax base.
All right. So code enforcement and comp planning has always been on my bullseye.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
And I don't know how strong you are down there in your town on those issues, but in the present economy, would you say that your town is too restrictive or not restrictive enough on the local businesses and the rules and regulations that they use on them?
Well, obviously the noise ordinance is a problem, and now the town is looking at the sign ordinance, which I think is going to be okay for the businesses, but it's been in the works for about 4 years. We hired this sign attorney when I was still mayor, and she, for one reason or another, has just dragged this out forever. So I'm hopeful that the end result will be that the signs that exist, whether or not they're conforming with the current code, will be allowed to be grandfathered in. That was one of my big issues, is if you have a great-looking sign, green marble, for instance, some of the condos have, well, if they're a little large compared to what the current code allows, but they're beautiful and they're proportionate to the buildings, then I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be able to exist as long as they don't need to be repaired or replaced.
So your new sign code is to reduce the size of the signs?
Well, it's to control the size of signs. And it's obviously that impacts businesses. If they're not allowed to put out sandwich signs, they're not allowed to put out certain banners, you know, things like that that people are used to using for special events. So it still needs tweaking after all these years. But as far as code enforcement goes, I am a strong proponent of code enforcement. I know you and I kind of don't agree on that, but mainly from the standpoint of protecting people's property values, making sure that your next door neighbor doesn't have grass 2 feet tall and rats living in it, and things like that.
I agree with that.
That's the kind of code enforcement I'm a supporter of.
And I support that too in the residential sector. Where I have a problem with code enforcement is the fact that when it comes to the business and today's economy, let's back off. Let's give them a little breathing room to the businesses.
Well, that's
the commercial part of the town.
That's where the council plays a huge role, because they are the ones who enact the ordinances. So if you recognize that there's a problem that's impacting the businesses negatively and that wouldn't negatively impact the citizens to change, that's your job.
I know Volusia County's got some really stupid, in my opinion, ordinances. So many trees per feet. I remember that one business you were talking about was going to have a huge problem. Well, there's that one. Then let's look at the Cabbage Patch, for example. It's in the middle of nowhere, nothing but trees all around it, and the county come in there and made him plant 60, I believe 63 trees in an open field. Makes sense. I finally asked Carney Luzon, why did they do that? Well, when I went from A1 or agricultural status to commercial status, then they said I had to put in all these trees. It makes absolutely no sense at all. It's an expense to a business, and every expense you lay on a businessman today, the small independent businessman, you're crippling him. You're really hurting him. You're preventing him from growing. You're preventing him from making a living. And if he's not growing, he's not hiring. So you're holding down our employment. And these cities and towns don't seem to understand that.
I understand where you're coming from. In fact, I recently had a conversation with one of the businesses in Ponce that while I was on the council, we rezoned to multifamily because they have condos around them, and it just made sense the way the planner presented it to us. Well, I didn't realize at the time that the impact was going to be a major change in their tax rate, and it has negatively impacted them significantly. So that's one of the things I want to look at again if I'm elected to the council this fall, is, you know, when we make a decision like that, what is the long-term impact going to be to the business? And can we revisit their zoning?
Well, you're saying that the council has these decisions to make.
Yes.
No, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. The council, have you got anybody that's got more than 6 months longevity on your council?
We have two people who are actually, they're the ones whose terms are up this fall.
Yeah.
That, you know, the other three have all resigned. The former mayor resigned, and then the mayor who replaced him resigned. In the meantime, a council member resigned, the vice mayor at the time. So we have two appointees currently. There's an appointee being appointed on June 16th, which I have applied for, and I'm going to run for council this fall, whether or not I get that, but it's been a very disruptive year.
Yeah, it has. Well, we understand that there were some personal issues involved with one of your members, but
right, the former mayor.
The former mayor, and we won't get into that at all, but what seems to be the problem down there? Why are they having so much trouble keeping their people?
It's interesting. None of them actually stated in their resignation letters why they were resigning, so it would be speculation for me to say anything, and I don't really want to do that. That's not the way I do business. Communication.
There you go.
Talk about communication.
Sure, let's talk about communications.
When I was on the council, I would stay up till midnight, 1 o'clock, whatever it took to make sure I responded to citizen communications, emails, phone calls, whatever it was. This council, the past 3 members and the 2 who are left, have a reputation of not responding to people ever, basically. I have called some of them, not gotten a return phone call, unless they were the ones who initiated the communication in the first place. I've not sent them any emails that I wanted a response to, but people I know have, and they're well known for not responding. I just don't think that's the appropriate way to represent your citizens. Your citizens have the right to communicate with you and get your opinion and get some information from you. When they write to you and flat out request a response and you don't respond, that's just not right, in my opinion. And when I was I think I was just still on the council. I don't think I was even the mayor. I started these town chats, which were informal town halls in the evening where people would just come and bring up a topic, and if I didn't know the answer, I would get it for them. But it was the people liked it, and I thought it was very successful. However, unfortunately, there was an organization that I relied on to coordinate them, and I never could really get them to get it together as often as I wanted to do it. So it kind of fell apart. I'd like to revisit that if I get elected and not use an outside organization. You should be as available as you can possibly be.
Absolutely. There's no reason not to, if you're going to do the job,
right,
there's no reason not to be responsive to telephone calls, because you never know what that call might be for. I mean, I get calls from people all the time. Members of the community, members of my organization, Bikers for First Amendment Rights, always return the calls. always. You have to, because you never know what that call is going to be for, how important it's going to be, or how important it's not going to be. But at least take the call and find out what it's all about.
Well, it's clearly important to that person, or they wouldn't have taken the time to call you.
Exactly.
And you, as an elected official especially, that is why you're there, as you say. It's because you represent people, and you don't represent them well if you don't know what it is they're thinking. You
wanted the job.
That's right.
Now do it.
Exactly.
So, how are the taxes down there?
They're actually pretty good right now. The years that I was on council, they went up a couple of years because we had some major projects we had to address that had not been taken care of in earlier years, trying to keep the taxes down. I'm sure you've heard that story before.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so all of a sudden you have to catch up. Some things have to get done. So we did a $2 million stormwater project that kept some houses that had been having chronic flooding from flooding anymore. We've had some major storms since we completed that, and they have not had any flooding, so really, really proud of that. We started developing the Posetta Preserve, which we largely got grant money for, thank God, but it is absolutely gorgeous now. If you haven't been there, it's basically complete. We have a quarter-mile dock out into the river on the west side, and the trail through the preserve where the green mound is, and the big old, like 500-year-old oak tree. It's absolutely gorgeous, and the wonderful playground. I was just there this past weekend with my godson's kids, and it's a really nice place. So we had to spend a little bit of money on projects like that, but we developed the doggy park, which people love.
Okay.
But we kind of got that stuff done, and then we started cutting the budget. You know, I'm a businesswoman. I'm the lab director down at Burt Fish Medical Center, so I know all about budget, and I know all about having to keep your expenses down. And no, we do not spend the money just because we budgeted for it. Whatever we have left over at the end of the year doesn't just, spend it now before the year ends. We put it into the reserve. So our reserve, they had to start spending down because it was exceeding what we had voted to have the maximum be. They've done a good job. I will say this, the past council has done a good job at keeping the taxes down and reducing them. Last years that I was on the council as mayor, we were reducing taxes every year, and we got down to about $2 million less than we had been. And this past council has reduced them about another $1 million. So my goal obviously would be to reduce them as much as possible again. But along with that is I'd like to take more of the burden off of the homeowner and defray it onto, well, maybe new homeowners, you know, if this new development was allowed to happen, and the businesses, help the businesses be strong.
We've run out of time. I want you to hold that thought. We're going to be coming, you're going to be back with we're going to be back with another edition with you, Nancy Epps, former mayor of Ponce Inlet, another half-hour edition, and we'll hold that thought till the next show.
Sounds
and
good.
We'll come right back to your taxes again and some more things about your city. In the meantime, I'm Crazy Eddie. We'll see you next Sunday with another edition of Volusia County Issues. Thank you very much. Goodbye. See you next Sunday with another edition of Volusia County Issues. Thank you very much. Goodbye.